and welcome to Good Morning Sibos. I'm Nadine Dereza.
And I'm Stephen Chia, and it is day 3 of Sibos 2016. I can't believe it, it's just flown by. Once more, we'll be keeping you up to speed throughout the day.
And I must say, yesterday I had such a fun day. I met one of my heroes.
I know why.
Kevin Keegan.
Of
He
course.
was mobbed on the Standard Chartered fan later on.
Right.
Here for a great cause, but I must say, I've got over it now. I'm back with you. You're my TV husband once more. And
It's made your day, made your week, made your year, I think.
It has indeed.
Okay.
No, you have, Stephen. As well as our interviews and debates here in the studio, we're broadcasting the key sessions as they happen.
And here on Good Morning Sibos, we'll preview the day ahead at the conference in the company of our panel of journalists, and we'll also bring you reports from right across the city of Geneva. And this morning, we'll take a look at some of the fabulous museums in this city.
And they are fabulous. Talking Cyber starts at 10 o'clock. You'll see me down on the exhibition floor talking to delegates and exhibitors. And this time, it's a spotlight on the Standards Forum.
Then at 11:30, we'll bring you the big issue debate, the essential conference session, which explores the day's hot topic with experts from the world of finance and beyond.
And at 1 p.m, we have the in-depth Lunch with Sibos programme, bringing you panel discussions, session previews, and the latest in the Sibos Game Changer interview series.
At 3 p.m, join us for Sibos Today, featuring the big interview. And today, it's with Susan Skerritt of Deutsche Bank.
Now, first on Sibos TV, we're joined by James Wallace. He's Vice President of Payments Industry and Blockchain at IBM, to talk about his session at 9 o'clock this morning. Welcome, James.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We've nipped you just before your session. You must be unprepared, otherwise I know you wouldn't be here.
Thank you, yeah.
But tell us, what will your session be about?
The session is around correspondent banking and blockchain. The question is blockchain the way to go in correspondent banking? And obviously, IBM is a big investor in blockchain. We've got a huge amount of activity with clients. In fact, our CEO, Ginny Rometty, is going to be on stage at 11:30 this morning.
So big day for IBM
Very
today.
big morning, yes.
Yeah.
Really, actually, it's been a great show all round so far. But the actual session on correspondent banking is really, making the case for or against blockchain. Is blockchain ready? What are the pros, the cons?
And do you see it as an inflection point at the moment?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I will be making a case for blockchain and now rather than waiting. In fact, we're releasing a study today, an independent survey that we did of about 400 banks and financial markets firms. And one of the outcomes is that 15% of them are saying they will have a live blockchain application within the next 12 months. So those people that are sitting on the fence, I'm trying to encourage them to not sit on the fence and actually start working now. So that's the case I'll be trying to make.
You think everyone's ready for it?
No, I think there's some inertia. Some people are. I think we have trailblazers, and then we have the followers, and then we have some laggards. So I'm not going to name names.
But there are not many people with a title with a blockchain within their title as well. So I think you're leading the way when you're handing out your business cards. But I hear you are a veteran of Sibos. In fact, we should pay you to come here now.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
This is your what?
This is my
ninth session.
Yeah.
So what sort of changes have you seen over the years?
I think it's broadened out in terms of the content. I mean, when I first came, it was really payments and securities was the focus. And that's still, that and transaction banking is still the main focus, but we've seen a much more diverse set of topics, with InnoTribe coming along, more of the technical folks coming. In fact, just from our blockchain team, we've brought some software developers along, right? You'd never have had software developers at Sibos a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they've been as busy in meetings as any of our business people. So
and any good networking opportunities for you?
Infinite.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? You just can't keep up with all the opportunities.
Right.
But it's a good mixture of meeting new people and then bumping into people that you haven't seen for a while. Thursday's a good day for that because it
Winds down a little
calms
bit.
down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like the idea, as you mentioned, the scope has broadened. I mean, I had a chat with a futurist, there are people from other industries, just not within financial. And that's a reflection of the way the world is changing, because everything's interlinked these days. You can't just work in isolation,
Exactly. And in fact, that's one of the points that I'll be making later is this idea of not just collaboration within the industry, but collaboration across industries. If you think about an end-to-end process, someone's exporting something and it gets shipped, it needs this payments, it's all linked together.
And you need inspiration from other industries as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So in terms of your session, what else can we expect from it? It's a last plug from you.
I think it's
Give it
going
a
to
go.
be. I think we've had some preparation and we have some very different opinions. So I think it'll be feisty.
Yes. And just a reminder where it is.
It's in conference room 2 at 9 o'clock this morning.
Well, brilliant to
Okay.
have you here, James, isn't it? Thank you very much,
No.
and good luck.
All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we win with the yes vote.
We'll find out. We'll find out next year, actually.
Yes.
Probably, if all goes well, you'll be back here talking about how things have evolved since then.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Now, every day here on Sibos TV, we are bringing you ideas of things you can do outside of the conference as well. So maybe you're thinking of adding a bit of culture to your visit, and Nadine's been out investigating some of the must-see museums. Take a look.
Thank you, James. Love to see
Great.
you. We're now going
Thank
to
you.
throw you over. Home to more than 30 museums and galleries. And one of the most recent additions to the Geneva skyline is the Museum of Ethnography, rehoused here in 2014.
It's the latest museum that opened in the city just under 2 years ago, with a brand new building, a beautiful landmark in the landscape of the Jonction area. And this is a museum dedicated to world cultures and the arts of the 5 continents. We have a permanent gallery with over 1,000 exhibits, and everyone in the world will find something to relate to.
Current exhibitions include Amazonia, a rich experience of the rainforest in sound and vision. The Red Cross was founded in Switzerland and is the only organisation to have won the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times. And you can learn about the history of this international humanitarian movement, the great work it has done, and how they're helping societies today.
We are displaying 150 years of history of the humanitarian action, but in a very modern way. We're working with hologram, with tactile screens. We know today that our world is difficult, and we really want to deliver a message of hope.
For art lovers, there's MAMCO, Switzerland's largest museum of contemporary art.
Well, the MAMCO is quite a unique museum in Geneva because of its context. It's in an old converted industrial building. It used to be a factory. At the MAMCO, we show a great variety of artists, starting in the 1960s and upwards to today. And of course, we've made a point of showing a lot of international artists from America, from Europe, but also local artists from Geneva.
Last but not least, we couldn't finish without mentioning the scientific splendour of CERN. If you've ever felt a sense of wonder about the mysteries of the universe, CERN might be the best place to get some answers. So quite an eclectic bunch there, from outer space to the Amazon and everything in between. Just make sure you don't get lost and miss the conference. I hope you enjoyed that, Stephen.
I did.
Because you're hanging around on Friday, and I can
am.
recommend the Museum of Ethnography. Yes, I've
Yeah.
got to say it again. It's really hard to say. They've got an amazing exhibition on the Amazonian forest, which we featured in that.
Yes.
What we didn't feature, because our cameras had to move on, was this great sound wave. They've got this huge billboard and this amazing sound wave, and that in itself is enough to see. I may not be selling it to you. You're looking really
Right.
puzzled.
No, I'm just trying to imagine what a sound wave looks like. You know, I mean, yeah, but why that would be interesting in terms of
Well, go on Friday
Exactly,
and
I'll
report
forget.
back to me. I'm sure you'll love it. Yeah. Well, let's carry on with the business of the day. And joining Chris Hall, editor of Sibos Issues, we have Clarissa Dan, who's editor-in-chief of Trade and Forfeiting Review, and Tony Peyton, who's deputy editor of Banking Technology. Welcome.
Morning to you all. Welcome to the show. Let's get cracking. What were the highlights of yesterday's conference? You can each take a quick pick at Tony.
Yeah, for me, I was quite busy because obviously reporting a lot of stuff, but probably Inner Tribe Africa. It was a 30-minute session. That area is a lot of interest because it is emerging nations, new things are happening, and I've got quite a few things to say on it, but we'll maybe do it later.
Okay,
Yeah.
flavor, Clarissa.
It was the two together, days 1 and day 2, just the evidence that central bankers and regulators are really getting involved in this blockchain discussion. They want to be part of the conversation and part of the solution.
Well, that sounds positive, doesn't it?
I thought so.
Yeah.
That's really good. And definitely a step on from last year,
Yeah.
where there was a lot of noise, but not a lot of going forward. And now there's much more evidence of partnerships.
And this lady tells it as it is. So if Clarissa says it, it's
It
the
must be
gospel.
true. Okay.
Kind.
And then Chris will put it in print.
Exactly.
But I think yesterday, although obviously Cybus is a place where you can get into lots of really granular detail about a lot of aspects of what's going on in the banking industry, for me, I did enjoy the opportunity to take a kind of big 6,000 feet view in the big issue debates on geopolitics and macroeconomic issues with David Wright and the other panelists yesterday. So that was the thing for me.
So you really broaden it out. Let's go back, actually, I think, to Inner Tribe Africa, because I think you wanted to tell us something more.
Yeah, well, I think with Africa, they're talking about there's 3 startups. They showed the 3 winners. So their ideas are very good. But there's no sort of discussion. There should be a more mature dialogue about Africa in terms of, well, dare I say it, corruption, financial inclusion. There's a lot of poverty. How are you going to provide banking to people when they've not even got running water? Well, that's my opinion. There should be a bit more, we're having a conversation. It can be a bit generic sometimes. Right. As a journalist, I've got to get to the specifics.
Do you feel that is perhaps one of the untapped or has big potential markets?
Well, everybody knows it's got potential, sure. But what I mean is the dialogue, it should be not just people smiling and talking. They should be talking about what's the government doing, because African governments are not helping those startups.
And in fact, last year we did talk about financial inclusion quite a lot, particularly with the
Bill Gates the year before.
And the migrant situation, because you've got people that still need access to money, but the swathes of people who are moving around the planet.
Yeah, one of those winners did provide that.
Yeah.
I bumped into a lovely guy on the bus, Jay Rosengard. He's doing a session this afternoon on mobile banking in Kenya, and he's done a special report and everything. People should really get to that.
So you actually get a bus? I thought you had a limo here, Clarissa.
No, it might be. You might be talking about the Uberization of financial services, but you won't see an Uber outside the Polexpo. It's bus or car, and I'm on the bus.
Indeed. And Chris, are you covering financial inclusion at all this year?
Yes, actually, Jay, who Clarissa mentioned, was interviewed for one of the previews in Cybus Issues, as well as his kind of talk this afternoon, which is based on his some research that he did that was funded by the Swift Institute. He's also on a panel on Thursday where there's a broader range of experts who look at financial inclusion issues across various geographies. Although Jay's work was focused on Africa, the question is, well, who are the stakeholders that need to have a big role in order to make things happen? And I think one of his conclusions was that you really need regulators and central banks to get involved to actually make it easier for startups to actually kind of put the kind of infrastructure in place to reach a broad range of the community.
That's interesting. Should we actually focus on today?
Yeah.
So what are we looking forward to? So Tony, what's the highlights hopefully for you today?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to report on 2 things that are not of great interest to me. But one thing that I noticed on the schedule is Inner Tribe Americas. Yeah. So again, I'm coming back to Inner Tribe. So
why is it not of interest to you?
No,
Come on,
Inner Tribe Americas is of interest to me.
Yes.
It's the 2 things I have to report on.
Oh, okay.
Which you don't want to tell us about because they might be a bit up.
It's a secret. But what I'm saying is, these areas like Africa, the Americas, as in the southern part, not our favourite, not our top one.
Thanks for that geography lesson.
Yes. Well, I like to help. So maybe that would be of interest.
Yes.
But I probably won't see it.
Yeah.
I'm too busy doing other stuff.
Too busy networking, partying. And Clarissa?
Well, I just want to see a bit more of this innovation story. Here we are in an amazing city where you've got innovation together with the financial safekeeping of the world economy. And bankers who are too big to fail, some of them that are out there, need to be allowed to fail. That's what came out of some of the discussions yesterday. Will that come out today? I don't know. But it's quite difficult to... Mr. Dyson, who we're all familiar with when we dry our hands in the washrooms, his 5,127 prototypes had to get out the door before that first vacuum cleaner using that technology hit the streets in the early 90s.
Wow.
Will we see that in banking? I don't know.
No.
Yeah. Well, in a tribe, do you get that sense that they want to replicate?
But it needs to be part of the mainstream, business as usual.
Okay. Well, surely you're the lady that can ask those questions. Are you not leading that drive, Clarissa?
Well, yeah, undercover.
But that's always been a challenge for the industry. I mean, we had a chat with some of the other guests on the show, and same thing, this fear of failure. I mean, but it's not just here in this industry. Many other industries that are perhaps a bit more mature, a bit further on, they feel they can't afford to have that blimp in the roadmap at all. So what then?
It's just difficult, isn't it? You've got a lot of fines, you've got a lot of censure going on, but then you've got the same regulators saying, "Oh, we want to be part of it. We want to work with you." Have another fine.
Well, Chris, what about you? What should we look out for today?
Well, I think two areas that haven't been looked at too much in Sibos so far this week is the kind of corporate sector and what's going on, which is an area that kind of Clarissa knows very well, and it has been a bit of a sore point in that corporates, in terms of the treasury services and the trade services, have been kind of complaining for quite a while that things haven't seen the kind of innovation in the workplace than they have in their kind of consumer experience. So there's at least 3 sessions this afternoon on corporates, and also in the standards forum there's quite another kind of practical element with how both payments and securities infrastructures are using standards in practical terms to improve their services to their customers. So there may be a little bit of innovation there, but maybe not enough to satisfy Clarissa, I don't know.
Yeah. So how should customers benefit from all of this? How are customers in the end going to benefit?
Better prices, less expensive banking. But banks can still be there. We want them to turn a profit, otherwise they may not survive.
Yes. Well, we need them, though, don't we?
do.
So it's a dichotomy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it's a fine balance. And you're nodding away there, Tony. Are you still with us?
I'm still with you. I don't find corporates that interesting, to be honest. So you carry on talking.
You just want to...
No, I'm sorry. It's just not that interesting to me. So.
What do you find interesting, then, apart from Inner Tribe, Africas and Americas?
I suppose one thing, I noticed a comment was made at blockchain. Somebody's talking about blockchain. They said it's passed a stupidity test. What it means is that, first of all, when people have a revolutionary idea, first they think it's stupid, then they think it's obvious. This guy was quoting his economics professor. So they're saying blockchain is now moved on. It's passed that stupidity test. Because to be honest, this show, the Sibos show, yeah, it's great and all that, everybody's smiling, but in a way it's a sequel to Singapore. Because what we're doing, we're seeing a continuation of ideas. I've not heard anything really totally new, but I have blockchain now is a bit more accepted. People know what it is.
Right.
Last year, they were a bit confused.
So last
that's
year,
what I want to talk about. But,
okay. In a way, yeah, we were talking about blockchain, but not as much as we are this year. So it was perhaps, as you mentioned, doing the stupidity test. People were saying, I don't know, is this for real?
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's more about cyber security this year. That's been the main focus.
Yeah, that's
on
interesting.
technology.
Certainly, yeah. I might talk about it. Yeah.
You can talk about anything, I think.
Yeah. There's an awkward guest, Tony. No.
Well, I'm here, my first and last visit. That's my plan.
It's your swan song.
Yeah.
I tell you what, your editor, though, I saw her with Kevin Keegan yesterday. I thought he was all mine,
Yeah,
so she looked very happy, didn't she?
It, yeah.
Yes, I did see that as well.
In fact, it's interesting because what we've also done big time for this session is to bring in a lot of diversity. It's not just the financial industry. We've brought in other players from the peripherals, many of them in innovation as well, just to show that I think it's, you don't work in isolation.
No.
Well, Chris, I mean...
Yeah, no, I think that's been a theme that really has progressed quite interestingly. I mean, Inner Tribe, I think, first arrived in 2008 as a concept, and certainly my first Sibos was actually last time it was in Geneva, and it was it really was bankers talking to bankers, and that was pretty much it. I'm not saying it was uninteresting, but that really was the conversation. Now there is a much wider conversation. I mean, the IBM presence is kind of quite high profile, but there's a lot of organisations that you wouldn't have had about 10 or 15 years ago. So I think that realisation by the banking industry that they do need to learn, and there is kind of opportunities to kind of learn from others is quite strong, I feel.
I think the customer journey is much more clear this year than it has been in previous years. The bankers are certainly telling me that they are listening much more to their clients. They're having to.
Yeah, but they always say that. Oh, we're listening. They always say that.
Yeah, you're better.
Bankers, they just say all this stuff.
Yeah.
You're just a real pessimist, aren't you?
I'm a realist. As a journalist, you have to. As a journalist, you're not cynical, but you've got to be sceptical.
But they're actually mapping their strategy to the transactional elements of what their customers are telling them. It isn't just talk. I've seen some of them.
Right.
Thank you very much indeed. I know
folks.
Coffee, you're doing a competition at the moment. We haven't got time to chat that, so I want you to focus on finding the best coffee now to get you back into the positive mood.
That's coffee from Singapore. I found a cafe. So there you go. Okay, well, that's our panel. So lots to look forward to at Sibos here today. But continuing our series of films about things to see and do in Geneva, after business sessions and meetings are done, what better way than to spend a few hours than to head out to the city's beautiful lake? And Dean's had a chance to take our cameras to do just that. Take a look.
Geneva is famous for its lake. And down by the waterfront, there's always plenty to see and do. One of Geneva's landmarks that you cannot miss is the Jet d'eau fountain. Now, you may have seen it as you were flying in. If you want the numbers, you're looking at 500 litres of water per second, reaching a height of 140 metres, making it the world's highest fountain. Although the water isn't just for looking at. If you're feeling active, then there's plenty of options for enjoying the lake. Tropical Corner offers lessons and facilities for all sorts of activities, whether you're experienced on the water or a first-timer. There's also a comfortable spot to watch other people having fun.
Besides going on the water for windsurfing or stand-up paddling, people can come here just to enjoy the place. Another reason for people to come here is that we've got the best sunset of the city. It's really nice to watch with a little glass of wine and just enjoy the end of the day in a cool place.
You don't have to get wet to enjoy the water, though lunch aboard one of the Belle Epoque steamboats has to be one of the most laid-back ways of crossing the water while enjoying a delicious lunch and watching the scenery go by.
Simply lovely, I think. And the weather's been perfect for
Yes.
a trip on the lake as well.
And it still is lovely, isn't it, the
still
weather?
is,
Although I
that's
haven't
right.
been outside for
Although
days.
we can't, yeah, I know, it's like, it looks the same in here every day.
Well, the mountains are clear behind, aren't they?
That's right. Okay, it's time now for us to have a chat with Dean Garfield, President and CEO of the Information Technology Industry Council.
And Dean is moderating the big issue debate today at 11:30 on cognitive business and the future of financial services. So
Well, Dean,
welcome to you.
welcome.
So
Thank you.
what exactly is cognitive technology?
It is computing technology inspired by the human brain. So rather than being programmable logic, it is computing that has the ability to reason and to learn over time and to perform at a high scale.
Right. So artificial intelligence, as we've sort of been calling it.
Correct.
Is that a fair term?
Yeah, that's a fair term.
Okay.
So it's not replacing the brain, it's inspired by.
Exactly. And it's important to keep in mind it is not replacing the brain, and it's not the brain. It doesn't have the ability to perceive in the way that we do, and certainly doesn't have emotion. And so it's not human beings.
But isn't that just a matter of time? I mean, you know, everyone's watched a movie or two that says one day, you know, AI could...
Likely a long, long time.
Okay. So where do you see it really coming into play in the industry? How is it going to shape things or change things?
Where it's coming into play in the finance industry is understanding and seeing anomalies, for one, so eliminating or reducing fraud. It also provides banks with a deeper connection with their data that enables them to innovate around new business models as well as saving cost on the back-end services.
So what are the actual policy considerations if you're using cognitive technology for companies?
Yeah, there are all a range of issues, including cybersecurity, where you were talking about blockchain earlier and how that can be helpful, issues around data security and privacy. And so there are a range of issues that are ones that are being considered by the industry and by the tech sector as well, and as well as policymakers around the world.
Are there any of those issues that jump out at you more that seem a bit of a larger area of concern in terms of preventing or making it a bit more challenging for the industry to move that way?
Well, among the challenges are just the research that's necessary to continue to advance cognitive computing, right? There's still a lot of work to do, including work on understanding the brain. It's one of the organs that we know the least about. On the policy, ironically, exactly. On the policy side, cybersecurity is in the fore, and so as well as when you have new technologies, they're often quite disruptive, and so real considerations around what artificial intelligence or cognitive computing means for the labor force. And so thinking through all of those issues, planning for those issues are quite important.
And how about any limitations to the technology? You've painted a positive picture. Yeah. Are there any downsides?
Well, the limitations right now are cognitive computing has the ability to reason and to do a lot, but it can't explain the logic or the reason behind the conclusion that it reaches. So there are some limitations on the research. The other side of it is that you're melding a lot of information together, and so there are concerns about privacy. But those are issues, I think, if we begin dealing with them well in advance and on a global basis, we'll be able to handle them.
So I'm sure the governments will also be concerned about the area you just mentioned, and because of all of those privacy issues. So I mean, are they proving to be a bit of an obstacle in terms of how things are moving forward?
Thus far, no, actually. That is not to suggest it isn't being thought about, but what we're finding is that governments are actually working closely with the private sector to try to get a deeper understanding of these issues and move forward in a way that enables it while making sure that consumer protection is in place.
And Dean, very quickly, what can we expect from your session? What's it going to cover?
A lot of interesting and exciting issues.
Well, God, that was very quick, actually. Well, I'm engaged anyway. Just a little tease more.
We'll spend a fair amount of time talking about these developments, the implications for the banking industry, what does it mean for cybersecurity, and what does it mean for the future of banking? How will it change banking? What will it mean for the players who will end up being most successful? Will financial tech disrupt things or enable things?
And is it an interactive session? Because I'm very engaged with what you're talking about already, so
Thank you.
I think people are in for a fab session. Does it involve any other players, or is it just you?
No, it's not me alone. So Ginny Rometty, the CEO of IBM, and Sergio Rometty, who's who's the CEO of UBS, will be on the session as well. In fact, they're the headline. I'm just facilitating their conversation.
Well, we wish you all the very best with that, Dean. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, don't forget Dean's session on cognitive business and the future of financial services is happening at 11:30 a.m. But for now, it's Good Morning Sibos. It's Wednesday. We are back with more guests and talk throughout the day while we'll preview all the big conference sessions.
Yes, straight after this program from Conference Room 1, Machine Learning, the Future of Compliance. And we'll be back at 10 o'clock with Talking Cybers. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the day.